I would like to call to order the April 18th, 2023 meeting of the Colerain Township Zoning Commission. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So welcome to all in attendance. Just a friendly reminder for everyone to silence your devices at this time. Mr. Alec, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Bachman?
Here.
Mr. Gearing?
Here.
Let the record reflect Ms. Smith gave us her letter of resignation. Mr. Wilson?
Here.
Ms. McMullen?
Here.
And then also seated, Mr. Westfall.
Here.
Thank you. And Mr. Alec, we have an oath of office tonight.
Mr. Hauser, if you want to come up and I'll administer the oath.
Please raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Carl Werner Hauser III,
Solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution
solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution
and laws of the United States of America,
and laws of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio,
and the laws and resolutions of Colerain Township,
and the laws and resolutions of Colerain Township,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability,
I will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of an alternate member
of an alternate member
of the zoning commission
on the zoning commission
in and for Colerain Township,
in and for Colerain Township,
Hamilton County,
Hamilton County,
State of Ohio,
State of
so
Ohio.
help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hauser.
Thank you.
Commissioners, presented before you tonight are the minutes from our January 17th, 2023 meeting. Does anyone have any comments or edits to those minutes? Hearing none, can we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
A second.
Mr. Alleg, we have a motion and a second.
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Gearing?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
And Ms. McMullen?
Yes. Thank you. And we have a second set of minutes from the February 23rd, 2023 meeting. Do we have any comments or edits? Okay, hearing none, can we have a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
In a
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Alleg?
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Gearing?
Abstain.
Mr. Westfall?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
And Ms. McMullen?
Yes. All right, so the motion's carry and the minutes have been approved. Thank you. So next up on the agenda, we do have the public address portion. Just to be clear, the public address is for any and all items that are not related to tonight's public hearing. The public address includes anyone who also wishes to speak regarding the informal concept review that is on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone who would like to address the commission? I do have one person who signed in, Graham Palin.
That's me. I signed it on the wrong sheet.
Okay,
Sorry.
no problem. Is there anyone else who would like to speak who didn't sign in? Okay. All right, so next on the agenda, we have a minor modification to the final development plan before us for zoning case ZA 2020-06, Dunlap Grove. Mr. Alleg, does staff have a presentation?
We do. I do. Thank you, Ms. McMullen. Tonight's case, the applicant representing the property owner is requesting a minor amendment to the FDP. Really, in my opinion, just an administrative matter, which we'll cover the reasons for as we move through this. But the applicant is Mr. Parlin, Mr. Graham Parlin, and the property owner is Mr. Dunlap Development, LLC. And located pretty much in the heart of the township, right up the road on Springdale Road. one of the most recent developments. This case initially went through, as the case number reflects, in 2020, at the end of 2020. This is just showing the topography of the area in question when we speak of tonight, but really the minor amendment would apply to the entire FTP overall. A little bit of history just as far as Colerain Township goes. The preliminary development plan came before the zoning commission December 15th of 2020. It was approved by the Board of Trustees with conditions on January 12th, and then the final development plan came before the zoning commission 3/16 of 2021. And then here is, all the commissioners should receive this. This is basically just a little matrix showing all the different plans that were approved, some simultaneously that were en route, and we'll kind of cover each one as they're relevant as we come through here. This letter, part of this is an onus to some of the things we have going on here. The preliminary development plan, generally, as this one states, this was the Hamilton County, when they receive a plat to do a preliminary subdivision, they'll send a letter out to all respective agencies. In this case, since it's in Colerain Township, we are one of those. This letter back from the then planning director, Mr. Iona, states for the Dunwood's concept plan, at least in the regarding sentence, and in the body, claims they reviewed a preliminary plan for Crosley Meadows. The record should just be reflected. There was no preliminary development plan for Crosley Meadows, but there was a preliminary subdivision plan. I believe that was a typo. However, basically what this letter states is that just the preliminary subdivision plan must comply with the PDP as they were received simultaneously. The preliminary development or subdivision plan, was received prior to the approval of the final development plan by Colerain Township, which is not unusual, but just so it shows that. This is the preliminary development plan that's presented to the Zoning Commission and the Board of Trustees. On this, this is just zoomed in on the bottom right portion of that preliminary development plan. Here, it's the correct setbacks for the existing zoning district are listed. Of most relevance would be, there's the cursor show, yep. So the rear yard setback being 35 feet. That was what was displayed on the preliminary development plan. That was presented to the Zoning Commission and to the Board of Trustees. This is the resolution 0321-21, which approved the preliminary development plan on the zone change to go to plan district. This is the final development plan that was submitted to our office. A little bit more will come up about this later, but in this aspect, all the commissioners should have received this. I believe I sent the highlighted version out as well to you, but written here is the zoning summary, existing zoning R6, proposed zoning change to PDR, plan development residential, and then also highlighted on the bottom right there are the applicable area variances that were granted to the specific development. And then also in the final development plan, anywhere where it is listed on the lots, not all lots have it listed for the front and rear yard setbacks, but wherever it is listed, it shows a 30-foot front yard setback and a 35-foot rear yard setback wherever it is displayed. And just for reference, so we don't get lost, that's the final development plan. The one that we're looking at right now is what's called the improvement plan. So this is a county document, and typically these get sent to our office simply to do a review and either approve or deny. Here, it is listed that the rear yard setback is 30 feet. However, nowhere is it shown that that was ever approved, a reduction from 35 to 30. And then also, within the same improvement plan, wherever it's displayed, it's indicated at a 35 rear yard setback. So there's incongruency on that, but again, that wasn't caught by our office, by the surveying firm, by the developer, or the builder at the time, which, sometimes stuff happens. Like I said, it's just sort of administrative. This is the final development plan. With this specific one, when the record plat came into review, I had since been employed here at Colerain Township. We did not have a signed final development plan on file with the deed of acceptance signed, nor do we have the restrictions and covenants approved or recorded as it stated in the conditions that it was. The developer, Mr. Parlin, worked very well and did a great job getting that to us. He got that done very quickly, and it was turned around real quick and it was approved. But however, I need to say on this part, I missed on here where there's no variance for rear yard setback, and then where it's showing It doesn't list the rear yard setback on the final development plan. It's just there's no variance on there, but where it's displayed against the same 30 in the front, 35 for the rear yard. And then all this is sort of coming to light for the application we received a few weeks ago. Ryan Homes, the builder, is building a attached single-family dwellings there. It's multifamily. It's because they want them all in their own parcels. The two areas variances that were granted were one to the minimum building width. A variance was granted for that, and then also to any side yard setbacks for the middle unit. Essentially has no side yard. And this is indicating they build them 3 units at a time, and listed on here is the rear yard setback at 31 feet. This is just that same page on the right, that site plan, just zoomed in with the highlighted. Here showing the structure depth at 29 feet. That'll play a part a little bit later on, but then also the rear yard setback is 31.73 feet. So right off the bat, that was causing an issue because it's not 35, where on this specific lot, it is displayed at a 35-foot setback. This is just a few of the pages of the blueprints from Ryan Homes. And this is one where it's sort of, I understand why people have a huge disdain for zoning administrators and other zoning personnel. Again, it was sort of just dismissed throughout. Here, the foundation plan, the site plan is showing the building depth based on the foundation or the first floor, which is 29 feet. However, in this specific model that Ryan Homes built on this, I guess technically it might be the third floor, there's actually a 3-foot cantilevered extension overhang. I believe I have a zoomed in version later, but basically this rear portion extends 3 feet beyond what the foundation underneath it does into the rear yard. So where the rear yard setback was shown at 31 feet, it's actually 28 and change. These are the applicable zoning resolutions, the sections. Won't beat this too much to death, but basically where I get stuck is anytime we receive an application, as zoning administrator, I have to review the application for conformance with the provisions of the zoning resolution and the effect of a final development plan. As far as the township's concerned, it is the ruling document for any area requirements, in this case front, rear, side yards. And then section 9.3 will become relevant. Planned development district standards. Basically it says the township should grant variances where a more efficient, or if you will, better development will be the case for it, or cause of it, excuse me. Same thing with design standards. And then the plan development requires a district change. That's the PD, the plan development. That's where you actually change the district. The final development, that's where you come back with, you should get into some more of the nitty gritty details. Table 7.2 lists rear yard setbacks, highlighted as R6. It's 35. There was no requested variance for that, and there was no indication that was changed at all. And then the really fun part, in the definitions, the rear yard shall mean a yard extending across the rear of a lot between the side lot lines and being the minimum horizontal distance between the rear lot line and the main building or any projection thereof. So the 3-foot overhang, even though it's not even technically, obstructing the ground below it, in the sense of having any improvement directly upon it or prohibiting any green space there, by our definition, it does count as the nearest portion for the setback. So here, where they're showing a 29-foot depth of the structure, really there should be a 3-foot addition on there, and even more so that 31 would be reduced. And this is where, again, in my opinion, it's sort of it was an oversight on many different levels, but it is where we're at now. It's administrative in nature, and there's that sort of zoomed in. That's the 3-foot cantilever on that top floor, and the proposed plan indicates a rear yard setback of 28.73 feet, that 29 width plus a 3 feet on that 31.73 setback. The approved final development plan indicates a rear yard setback of 35 feet. So the site plan as proposed will require a 6.27-foot variance for me to be able to approve it. Staff's recommendation is for denial of the site plan as proposed. We've already worked with Ryan Homes to adjust some of these structures in a different setting. So if they're amendable to that, then we would recommend approval of a 5-foot variance for the entire subdivision, so we hopefully don't run into this scenario at all, that the applicant be required to submit a revised final development plan indicating a 30-foot rear yard setback for the development, and then as a final condition of approval, the revised final development plan shall include a building setback line, front, back, and rear upon each lot in accordance with section 12.19. with a minimum rear yard building setback line of 33 feet to account for the 3-foot cantilever overhang, so we do not run into this scenario any further. And this is just that section reference at 12.19. It's basically where if there's any irregular lots or anything like that, the builder, developer, surveyor can just show on a dash line, here's your setbacks would be X amount, here's the building line itself. So no part of the building would go past that. It would just help, in my opinion, it would help make sure we don't run in the same scenario. But that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. And Mr. Alec, is the applicant present?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Should we go ahead and swear people in, a motion to open the public hearing then?
So this is not a public hearing?
Well, I would like to swear people in.
Okay, yes, that's fine, thank you.
So if you intend to testify, I guess, at the hearing, please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Graham Parlin. I'm representing Township LLC this evening. And I don't mean to, I don't plan on repeating anything that Mr. Alex stated because he's way more thorough than I'm ever going to be here regarding this matter. But I'm here today, and our submittal for minor modification is directly due to the fact that there's some ambiguity between the dimensions shown on the final development plan as well as the construction drawings in the record plat. So the record plat, which was reported through Hamilton County, I believe were reviewed at some point, circulated through the township, as well as the construction drawings, they show 30 feet, and the final development plan shows 35. So we're just trying to make them all consistent with a 30-foot rear yard setback. The other thing that Mr. Allen alluded to, which he's correct, is that these buildings have a cantilever, 3-foot cantilever over the back. So when we, and my engineer and surveyor isn't here today, but when we originally laid out the building footprints on the plan, preliminary development plan, and the final development plan, it was, we were assuming it was from the rear foundation wall, not counting the overhang, so that 3-foot difference. But what staff's proposing, we're in agreement to. We're fine with that. There's one building that is under 30 feet right now, as it was previously submitted, and that it's 52 through 54 on the slide that's up there. That building could be shifted closer to the roadway by about 4 feet to accommodate the cantilever if there's a 30-foot rear yard setback. The other thing I'd mention is this doesn't apply to all the lots. I mean, we're doing a blanket, but the reality is most of the lots are deep enough where that 35-foot rear yard setback is going to be just fine, practically speaking. So we're just looking at a handful of building pads where this would practically apply. So here today, I could call it a housekeeping matter, trying to make sure that we've got different drawings that show different things that were missed in the process, oversight by a lot of different people, but hoping to clean it up. Answer any questions that you have.
So these places are not yet built.
No, they are.
Some of them are going to yet to be built, correct.
They're not, the ones that are built,
I believe so. They've received zoning approval and building permits from both the township and the county.
I'd like to talk about that for a minute. So when I was out there today, 57, 56, and 55 are under construction as we speak. Those are right behind Colerain there.
Yes.
That's showing 35. You want to go to 30, and they're under construction.
I think
If I may speak to that, those were approved. Those were able to be approved. They didn't fail to meet the rear yard setback.
They did or did not?
They did meet the rear yard setback. There's nothing that has been constructed or under construction at the moment that has been a problem. A problem did present itself on those three that you brought up, Mr. Bachman, and worked very graciously with, I see him in the audience, Mr. Russ Peters, and even Paul Kors, give him a little bit of something, I guess. But to Ride Homes, we were able to shift those to get them to comply.
So those are in compliance
Yes,
with
sir.
the 35
Yes, they
feet?
are.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So you had mentioned, as we look at the plan here, that most of this is going to be not a problem because of the open space that you have around it. So 1 through 1 through 51, I would say, probably are not going to be an issue. Would you agree with that?
I would.
Where it gets tight is on the opposite side of the creek there, on there where the Mel Carl.
I believe
Cul-de-sac.
the buildings in question would be, as you see on the screen, 52 through 54. That is the application that was made to the township that raised the flag of do these conform. 64 through 66, we certainly could have made those lots deeper and eroded open space, but that's where the lot line is. The buildings aren't really going to change. It's semantics to a certain degree. Believe. I don't know if they're saying there's 28 or 30 they apply to. But I believe the really the ones that were concerning were 52 through 54 and 64 through 66.
And you already mentioned 52, 53, and 54. You can slide to the east a bit.
Correct. But it still wouldn't conform with it would conform to the 35 feet if we were measuring the 35 feet from the rear foundation wall.
But the cantilever's a
But
problem.
the cantilever's what
Got it.
screws it up.
I got it. Okay.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Graham.
And was there anyone else that was sworn in to speak on this matter? Please step forward. Hey,
Paul Kors, Ryan Holmes, 8622 Jacqueline Drive in Westchester. So I want to echo the sentiment from Mr. Allig and Mr. Parlin. So essentially, it's a streamlining, as Mr. Parlin mentioned, as well as housekeeping. So the record plat showing a 30-foot setback, construction plans showing a 30-foot setback, and then having that final PUD. So once 30-foot setback is granted, all of our product will then quote-unquote fit without any issues with the overhang for the cantilever. And the difficulty we've had with lots 52 through 54 simply because the bulb, the cul-de-sac on Mel Carl, is so tight there, whereas the building that's already under construction, 55 through 57, we were able to move that building forward and make the 35 feet work, if that makes sense. Any questions for me?
no.
I appreciate everyone's time. Mr. I like the work. Thanks.
Yeah, he's great. Thank you. And then just to be sure, there were a couple of other people that had signed in to speak during this portion. Craig and Bonnie Stephanie.
Sir, if you could please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please state your name and address.
Oh, excuse me, sir. Can you press the microphone button in front of you?
Craig Stephanie, and also my mom, Bonnie Stephanie. She lives at 3482 Niagara Street. The situation that we're coming about is the backyard that butts up to where the new development is. There was a wood line that was probably about 10 feet. I think it's 55 through 57, which would be on the corner of Colerain and Niagara. That wood line has been deteriorated. We actually created a barrier before this construction started to keep people from coming through the backyard prior to any of this development. And it's all been removed, and it is a very thin tree line, and we were concerned about a lot of foot traffic coming through there. And I don't know if there's something that could be done as far as fencing or a barrier put up through there to keep that under control. As my dad just passed away last year, and my mom's there by herself, it's a concern.
Okay, thank you. And is there a Bobby Thompson? Yes. Okay. Would you like to step forward? And did you swear yourself in as well?
Amy, please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you. If you can state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Bobby Thompson. I live at 9867 Arborwood Drive. And I have a question about the, my backyard is going to be, you know, it has a creek back there. And what I wanted to know is, right now it's like a big hole with all the, you know, constructions and everything. What's gonna go back there is what I wanted to know. Is there gonna be a fence or whatever?
So you were at,
9867
corner there.
Harborwood.
Right as the creek goes to the east. Yep.
Right here.
Yep.
Is that your property, miss? That's what's shown here, and then it looks on the FDP, there's a proposed detention pond here. There's nothing indicated as far as landscaping or barrier that I'm aware of.
Well, right now, there's like trees that, well, there's a tree that fell down, but it's not my property. It's on the other side of my property. So I was wondering, are they gonna clean that up, or if they're not gonna do anything there, then it's gonna be left just like that?
We can ask them.
Okay.
Thank you, miss.
did you have anything else? If not, we'll bring them back up.
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Graham, did you want to take a couple of questions, please?
Let me start with the fallen tree, I guess, to the east. First of all, I'm not aware of it, so we'll certainly look at it. That the area in the property in question is what we call common area in our developments, and common area is to be owned and maintained by the homeowners association that's created for the neighborhood. And maintained, I mean, you know, can mean a lot of different things. So up at our front entry, maintained will be mowed every week and mulched once a year and whatnot. Maintained in that sort of setting, what we tried to do when we brought this project in front of the township previously was maintain as much of the natural stream corridor as a wooded natural area. So there's not going to be regular maintenance of the wooded area. Our intent's to leave it in its natural state. Now, if there's fallen trees, it depends on how they look and what. I would have to go look at it in person to give you a clear answer. If it's small tree that's fallen in the woods, we'd probably just leave it. If it's certainly something leaning at risk of hitting a structure or crossing a property line, we'd probably treat that differently. There are two detention ponds kind of in that same corridor. Both were required by the county as well as Ohio EPA to address all the water quality requirements that are put on us, as well as detain the water to slow it down so we don't obviously flood anyone else downstream. So I just have to look at it, but it's generally intended to be in its natural state. The detention ponds will require some maintenance over time that we've bonded with the county engineer's office in planning and development, so that, you know, if they silt in from our dirt and debris before everything's stabilized during construction, we have to muck them back out towards the end, reseed them, clean them up, make sure they function, and then turn them over to the homeowners association for permanent maintenance. Addressing the tree line to the north, I wasn't aware of any barrier. Obviously, that area was wooded when we bought the property. Obviously, we clear trees out in order to create building pads and space for patios and whatnot. I know that we've maintained a tree line along there, but I'm sure it's not in the same state as it was a year ago before we started development. I certainly would be shocked if there's foot traffic that comes off the back of those houses that's trying to cut down to Colerain Drive. We've got sidewalks on both sides of the street throughout. If anyone's going to want to pass through, they're going to be walking down the sidewalk that connects Dunlap Drive to past the dog park to the private drive and then out on the sidewalks on Mel Carl. So I'm happy to look at it. People aren't allowed to cut through and that's trespassing. So I don't know what I can really say from a development perspective, other than people shouldn't do it. I hope they don't, and it's not an issue. I don't think it's going to be the quickest way. I don't know why residents would cut from Springdale Road all the way, cutting through that area when you've now got paved sidewalks throughout to do that. So
This used to be an issue back before trails that would cut through the woods for people that would go back through the neighborhood. We barriered that off. There's a tree. Part of the development. They pulled everything out that we put there for barriers.
did you put it on your property or our property?
Right in the tree line in between.
Was it on our property or your property?
It's on the wood line. Haven't had it zoned to find out what tree is yours and what tree is mine. I know that there was a barrier between. Is your name Paul Kors by chance?
I am not Paul Kors. But that fine gentleman is.
If I can, real quick, before we get into the fine gentlemen, if we could borrow any kind of sidebar conversations, if there's something to say or a question to be asked, if we could have you come up to the microphone, sir, for our record, just so we can have that reflected clearly. We don't want this to turn into audience versus developer, developer versus audience, or if you want to be versus me, that's fine. But if you have a comment to make, please make sure you have the microphone to make it, and we'll address anything. And then also, again, just to note, all of this is it's an administrative matter. I understand there may be some other issues going on. There are other methods to handle that, but please keep that in mind. It really is a housekeeping. That was a great way to put it. But in my perspective, it's an administrative cleanup. However, if there are other, part of the thing is public health, safety, and welfare, or zoning. It's entirely what it's predicated upon. But just if we could just keep that in mind.
So I would just say, just real quickly, if anyone in the audience has development-related concerns after the hearing, I'm happy to wait around for a few minutes out in the lobby and address this specifically that aren't a key component to why we're here tonight.
Well, and to that, just exactly that issue, as the property transforms to building units and actual residents, you will have a homeowner association soon. And it would be nice for these people, if they have issues, because you do have the residents that exist around there, you do have a lot of open space that touches them, that there be some way that they could get to that homeowners association to talk through those issues, like a down tree or whatever the case may be.
So just to put it on the record, we do have a homeowners association that has already been created. It is managed by Stonegate Property Management, and their number is 513-528-3990. Lauren Fisher's currently managing this neighborhood. And if there's any issues that pop up, feel free to direct them to Lauren, and she'll either manage it as an association matter or contact me if it's a development-related issue.
Perfect.
Thank you. All right, no one else had signed in to speak on this, but just wanted to offer it one more time. Okay. You will have to be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so you got. Please state your name and address.
Alicia Harris, 9861 Dunlap Drive. So I stay there, mine is developed, and it's talking about the foot traffic. I'm like in the beginning. My camera has caught several people going through the back. There's not even a trail back there. It's just patios and mud. So I don't know if anything could be done about that as well, because it's already developed, or what's gonna be done, but it's a lot of traffic back there. Like my camera has caught plenty of people running back there, 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, running back there, going back and forth. So I don't know what can be done. I hope something can be done, but there is traffic back there. And mine is already built.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so question for you. We did not make a motion to go into a public hearing.
I think the public hearing is clear, but you can go ahead and, if you wish to close, what was the public hearing. That's fine as well.
Okay, thank you. Can we have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Allen?
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Gearing? Mr. Westfall?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes. Thank you. All right, commissioners, do you have any other questions for the applicant or for staff? Okay, hearing none, do we have anyone who would like to make a motion?
I motion that, for denial of the site plan as proposed and approval of the staff, the three staff recommendations as stated. That is the 5-foot variance as indicated upon the final development plan to permit a 30-foot rear yard setback. That the applicant be required to submit a revised final development plan indicating that 30-foot rear yard setback. And the revised development plan shall include building setback lines front, back, and rear on each lot in accordance with Code 12.1.9 with the minimum rear building setback line of 33 feet to account for the 3-foot cantilever overhang.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, Mr. Allen, please.
Mr. Gearing?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall? Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes. Thank you, everyone. All right, so next on our agenda, we do have a public hearing tonight for zoning case ZA 2023-03 for a map amendment. Mr. Alec, do you have a presentation?
We do. Thank you for introducing the case. Tonight's applicant is Bryant Builders, representative for the property owner, Kenwood Lincoln Mercury Incorporated. And the proposal is to rezone a 3.2 acre portion of the property located at, known at the common address as 8940 Colerain Avenue from R6 Urban Residential District to B2 General Business District. This applicant was in front of the Zoning Commission in February as an informal concept review. And there's the current zoning of the property. Just north of the property is the case we've dealt with, and it'll actually be in front of us again next month. ZA 2022-07 Weiler Honda. And where the star is located is part of the portion that we're talking about rezoning tonight. This is the applicant's application. This was, that was the application for the informal concept review. This is the plans the zoning commission saw for the for the informal concept review, excuse me. I'm just going over that. Here's the application to do the zoning map amendment, justification letter, and this is the portion that we'll be discussing tonight. This is the 3.2 acre area to rezone. The applicable zoning resolution for this is found in 4.3. States basically everything we've gone through so far up to the point of the public hearing, the initial public hearing with the zoning commission, where a recommendation is made to the board of trustees for either approval with modifications, or recommended for denial. There's really only two criteria to meet. Basically that the amendment is in accordance with all applicable plans, comprehensive plan, land use plan, or any other township resolutions, and that's part A. It is, as proposed, applicable to the current comprehensive plan, Imagine Colerain. And then this is actually something I owe the applicant. I owe much sooner tonight, and I apologize for that. These are the two proposed requested, basically a GIS shape file or feature class file to indicate some potential paths for the cross-access easement. I'll get with the applicant after this, or sometime between now and the trustee meeting. But here is currently displayed is the current land use map, and it dovetails in very nicely with the proposed plan to rezone. So it meets the criteria as listed in 4.3.4A. And then criterion 4.3B is basically if some other zoning district exists where this use could be permitted, the applicant must show that this is the most appropriate. The only other district where automotive sales or rental are permitted is I-1, and that would not be, obviously, the recommended district to put in place here, especially where it abuts in R6 district. So the applicant meets both criteria as listed, which is what that says. Staff's recommendations for approval of proposed zoning map amendment as submitted with the following conditions. Parcels 510-9315 and 510-64-348 be combined prior to issuing any zoning certificates for the proposed building. That's that small portion up front. We'll cover that in just a second here. And then the applicant will be required to receive approval from all other applicable agencies. Stormwater retention is mentioned tonight, engineering, county building, all that typical agencies you have to go through prior to receiving zoning certificate for the structure. And then that the property owner agrees to designate a 25-foot cross-access easement. If they want to, a 30-foot cross-access easement, 30 foot is the minimum width of a township road. So if the applicant wanted to count for frontage, it'd be 30 feet, if that's of interest to them, across parcel 510-9315 and parcel 510-9376, which is also owned by the same property owner. It's just the south there. It was brought up during the informal concept review in order to participate in a good faith effort to achieve the automobile connectivity as described within the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan. Imagine Colerain. As I alluded to it before, and I thought I'd listed in here, I may have skipped in the very beginning there. No, I did not. This small, is that showing up on there? Or not? There's a small parcel here, right here just south of that little B2. That's in the same ownership. Those are the two I'm referring to be combined. It's a non-conforming parcel, as is. So just, I thought I had a slide, and I apologize. That concludes staff's report.
Thank you. So at this time, we need a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Alec?
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Gehring?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall? Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes.
I'll go ahead and, if anyone intends to speak at this public hearing, if they could please stand and raise their right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay, please make sure you state your name and address when you approach the podium. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Alec, first up is the applicant present.
I believe so.
Yes, my name's Ken Griffith. I represent Bryant Builders and the owner. One thing if you'll go back to, I think we have a parcel number.
Sir.
Wrong.
Can you start by stating your name and your address, please, for the record?
Griffith. I work for Bryant Builders at 1570 Windsor Park Drive in Centerville, Ohio.
Thank you.
So the parcels that you asked to join together, the parcel is on the first go back one, on number 2.
Okay.
Number 1, yeah, the second number,
Yes, sir.
that number's off.
Well, thank you for catching that. I
And
wouldn't want to do that. Thank you.
yeah, so with that, I'm basically here to answer any questions that any of the residents may have. So with that, I'll let them do their part.
For the record, for the typo in the parcel number, can you correct that for us, please?
I can fix that if you'd like it.
You can.
If you want,
Okay.
yep. If you just give me 2 seconds as he's going with his rest of his presentation. I apologize.
Thank
Thank you for
It's on the
catching that.
drawing. It was on the drawing. That's how I noticed it. Do you want me to tell you what it is?
That's okay.
Yeah, if you got to do it, absolutely. But yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, yeah.
that'll
Go
put
ahead.
it in the record, too.
All right.
Yep, go ahead. You can tell us.
Okay, it is parcel number that you should be, let me get it where I can see it.
93144.
93, let's see. Trying to make it out on my drawing. It is,
I'll fix it right now in the presentation.
think it's, the last four numbers is 0144-00. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Pardon me, I have a question for you.
Excuse me. He has a question. I should have asked. Thank you.
Huh? Oh, did it really just reset?
In your letter from Kenwood Dealer Group, Inc., located at Colerain Township, you say you want to relocate the service department from another property to a new building, this building that you're requesting the land for. Where is the other building that you're moving from?
It is south of, it doesn't show on the drawing there. They're actually going to sell they got a buyer for the existing building. It was the old Lincoln Mercury dealership that is south of the Northgate Ford dealership.
Okay.
The lot, if you look at the lower piece of the lot, the drive ties together with the property that they're selling and the Northgate Ford dealership. They're going to sell off that property and add another shop on the property that they have now.
So they want to add a new shop on the property. That's the
Correct.
request they have before us. The old property is going to be sold with the
Correct.
building intact. Does that present any problems, Jared? I mean, is there any zoning variance going to be requested for the old building?
There wouldn't be pre-existing nonconformities that would fall under if it didn't meet any of the current regulations. There were some violations upon that property that could be discussed if you wanted to. But at the moment, as long as the use stayed the same, whoever the buyer was, they could do it as right. If they were doing any expansion, they'd go through the Board of Zoning Appeals as an expansion of a pre-existing nonconforming use.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I do. Is this something, that's in our packets, which is really great exhibit that illustrates what we're trying to do tonight with regard to the rezoning? Is that possible to put up there?
Right there, sir? Is that it?
That's it? Yes, sir. So what we're really looking at tonight, just correct me if I'm wrong, is the 3.20 acre tract is what's got the diagonal lines going through it, correct?
Correct.
Correct? And your request tonight is to rezone that 3.2 acre tract from its existing R6 residential
Correct.
to business or B2?
Correct.
Okay. And I know last time that you were here on the preliminary, I had asked the question how much either acreage or how much linear feet you had between the residential units that would be to the residential zoning that would be not owned by you, so off-site, and I guess that direction would be due east. And we now know that, don't we? So we know that from the top line. So Jared, if you could, where the
I don't know if it'll zoom in any further than I have that. I can read it for you. 411.96.
Yes, but I want to show the point from what to what.
Let's see here. Okay, let's see if I can. If I do this, I think it's going to zoom out on me. So
from that point,
yes, sir.
going to the west to that point, that's
sir.
existing residential zone property you're not touching is 411.96 feet. Correct. And if we go down to the bottom, yes, the portion of property you're not rezoning or touching is approximately 50.46 feet.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that really kind of helps us out, at least helps me out from the discussion I had the last time we looked at this. Okay.
Now, before they build this building, will this be coming before us? What I'm concerned about is we know we have a water problem existing, okay, before this land is developed at all. If we change the zoning, this will have to come before us before they put the building up?
If it met everything, probably if it did not fall outside of any of the current zoning resolution and could just be approved as of right, it would not come back before you. It would, if you were to recommend for approval or approval with modifications or denial for tonight, the next step would be in front of the Board of Trustees. And at that point, they would either approve or deny the zone change itself. And then once that zone change were to be approved and it goes to B2, then we can address currently what the property owner was running up against was the impervious surface area for the portion of the parcel, zone B2. It's basically completely paved. So this will give them the green space they need to expand. So again, if everything else was as of right, it would not come back in front of the zoning commission. If anything, it could go in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals if there was some aspect of the zoning resolution it did not meet.
And there would be, where do they review the water retention requirements?
That's through the Hamilton County, I believe the engineer's office or storm.
And that would be done before the land would be developed?
Yes, yes. Yep. And that's what part of that condition out there was, that all required agencies must approve this before issuing a zoning certificate. And again, as always, if there's other conditions you would like to add to the zoning commission, that's just one person's recommendations up there, right? The three I can think of off the top of my head. If you're thinking of a recommendation needs to be added, or condition needs to be added to this, you are welcome to do so. Just to keep that in mind. I don't ever want that to be not an option for the zoning commission. Does that make sense? If you,
It makes sense. One of the things that I'm thinking about is substantial improvement, okay? If I take the building and I want to make a substantial improvement in it, substantial obviously is a
relative term.
Okay, then I have to conform to all current requirements. If we take this property, for instance, I don't know what's going on. The water problem, we said, was caused by the development, including the automobile dealership development that took place years ago. Does this present an opportunity to sit down and take a look at this Ford dealership and say, all of the Ford dealerships, all of that dealership's water has to be up to current standards?
They will have to be required to do that. Not through our department. That's not my expertise at all.
Now, you're saying yes, and I see. No here.
Just for the new.
That's not something that should be considered by you. It should be considered, like Mr. Alex said, by other departments. Once you have
I'm
to,
asking for clarification.
Yep.
It's not
Yep, on the it's
vote yes or no, okay? But I've had citizens in here before saying, listen, we're getting washed out. And we're saying, well, there's nothing we can do about it. I just want to have in the minutes that, listen, we are concerned about that,
but there's nothing that you can address it. Is that what you're trying to say?
other than putting it in the minutes so that whoever does address it doesn't let it slip on.
Fair
If
enough.
I
Fair enough.
may, you're talking about stormwater.
Yeah.
We've had the director of Hamilton County stormwater review this for stormwater runoff, because that was one of the things that we were concerned about as a development. And he said for the current building that we would be building, that we would be, there would no detention needed to be added. But if any other building, we're right on the edge, and if any other building would have to be, they would have to add detention if they just decided to add any more structures. And I have a letter from him on that.
Which leads me back to my question, and maybe this is a legal question or not. If we know we've got I understand, I think what this gentleman is saying. I'm saying I'm a common sense guy. And if it's green space now and we got problems, if they build a building, any building, we're not going to have as much water retention than we have now. It's going to be more of a problem later.
So, yes, you're right, and just please keep in mind, and Scott, don't take offense to this, but common sense doesn't always enter the legal spectrum,
Oh, I
right?
understand that. It doesn't enter it
I'm
at
glad I
all.
laughed. I'm glad I laughed. I was worried I might get a whack.
But-
But I completely understand what you're saying, and I hold very dear the comments made by the residents for the previous case where there was definitely an issue with flooding, and it was brought up.
Yeah.
As far as I understand, the most we can do under condition 2, I recommended that the applicant, as they would have to anyway, be required to receive approval from all other applicable agencies. I'm not aware of any additions, we could do as the township. Scott would have to speak to that, I guess, but it's really, if they meet our code, which they do, and they meet the stormwater guidelines, which if they're not increasing their impervious surface area, which as far as I understand, you're not, right? You're building on a current existing portion of the
Correct.
parking lot. So the part that's already impervious, they're not adding more impervious surface area. They're simply put a building where it is. But I completely understand what you're saying. I'm just not aware of if there's any way for us to legally to go above and beyond what the county would require in that. But whatever that's worth.
And well, it's worth a lot. The big difference is that I'm 75 years old. I've lived my life with common sense. I didn't leave it at the door when I walked in here, so just keep that in mind.
Let me ask a question. So the 3.2 acres that you're zoning B2 is existing green space currently? Or it's vacant, it's field?
Correct.
It's field. And the only thing you're asking for permission to do as part of this paperwork or part of this request is approximately an 8,000 square foot building.
Yes.
So the question then that I have then, the 3.2 acres, do you have a long-term plan for that field?
No, that pretty much is, we zoned that, we asked to rezone that so that we could meet the green space requirements for the township.
Okay.
That terrain back there there'd have to be a lot of money spent to develop anything
Gotcha.
back there, as rough as it is.
And certainly anything that you did, let's just say that as time marches on, it does become valuable, it does make business sense to develop that in some way. You would have to conform with all the stormwater requirements for new construction, so in theory, that would, the drainage that would be caused by this 3.2 acres would be at least managed under the existing codes that are there. Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I would ask, can you speak to how the property owners feel about the third staff recommendation about the cross-access easement?
Oh, they're all in favor.
Okay.
They're all in favor of it. Matter of fact, he wrote a letter. He sees it as as much benefit to him as it is to the township, because his customers and his employees have just as hard a time getting out on Colerain Avenue as everyone else does, is trying to get out on Colerain Avenue. But he's all for it. He didn't even. There was never any negativity about being able to give that easement.
Excellent, thank you.
In the front of the property, the small property in the front that you want to have rezoned, this is strictly from memory, is that little house that's there?
Let's see here. There wasn't one to rezone. There was a consolidation. I don't believe so. I think it's,
That's just parking lot.
yeah, it's,
There's nothing-
it may be a remnant of what was an old house?
There was at one time,
Possibly.
but that's a
Good-
parking lot now. That's part of his parking lot.
Yeah, I'm not,
Matter of fact, I think his water service for his building is in that parcel.
Any other questions? Nope.
All right.
Okay, thank you. So we do have Mr. Alfred Nagel on the list. And would you mind stating your name and address for the record, please, sir?
It's Alfred Nagel. I live at 9109 Zollner Drive. And my yard is on the back end of their lot. And I am the one that complained about the water, the creek, that all the parking lots have been dumping their sewer into the creek that goes through my backyard. And the creek, we moved in '68 in that house, my family, and the creek was only 6 inches deep. You know, I had baby geese.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Mr. Alec, would you mind asking them to go out into the rotunda? I'm sorry, they're just starting to merge with your voice, so I want to be able to hear you. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, and the creek was only 6 inches deep when we moved in there in '68. There was no, well, it's Furniture Fair now, but it was Zehrs that first built it, and then Gold Circle Mall, which is now Home Depot. They all started dumping their parking lot into that creek. And right now, that creek is 6 feet deep, and it's getting wider. And what's happening is when it rains really hard, the creek's going up 2-3 feet deep. It's not coming up out of the 6 foot now, but it's washing out the sides. And so as it's washing out the sides, the top then falls in. So it's getting wider and wider. And what I'm concerned about, and it seemed like Jeff Weiler addressed the issue with theirs, where they took extra effort to stop the drainage, that's what I'm concerned about, is the more dumping into that creek. Because there are houses that are farther down from me that are, the one, when there's a bridge on the bottom of Zollner by Palomar, and when it gets clogged up, the creek gets so high, it's into his driveway. And that's what my biggest concern is. You know, I know you already okayed Jeff Weiler, and you're going to have to okay this here. And there's no way to stop it. But I'm trying to stop more damage to my backyard. Because I don't have, my creek is not just 60 feet. I have several hundred feet because I got a long backyard back there. That's what I'm here to question.
Right.
As if he has any answers for that. I mean, it seems like they said that it doesn't matter, they can just dump it in there, the way I understood it.
Would you mind explaining again?
Absolutely. As best as I understand, I'm by no means an expert in hydrology or anything like that. If the applicant is not doing any development that triggers a requirement to increase retention or detention of stormwater by a county agency, I'm not aware of a legal way we can require them to do something they're not required to do by an agency that's more appropriately versed to handle that. I
So they can dump it
Well,
into the creek. Is that what you're saying?
yes and no, that their development as it exists meets the standard of when it was approved. Whatever they're doing now, if that is in fact the case, that does not trigger any type of increased retention or detention capability for this specific property, it's sort of like us, like the state can't require the federal government to do something, right? So it's sort of the supremacy, and I'm sure you'll cover me if I'm wrong, but it's like the township cannot require the county to impose a sanction on the property owner that the county isn't even requiring. It's like on your property, if you went to remodel the inside of your house and you're not changing the structural wall zoning, you don't even need a zoning permit for that. So I can't make you require a permit for something that doesn't meet our regulations. So if to bring it back to, if the applicant is saying that Hamilton County is saying that development as we're looking at tonight, this structure, this 8,000 square foot structure to be built upon ground, since it's already impervious anyway, it's covered with asphalt right now. So if they're building a structure on what's already asphalt, they're not increasing the runoff.
Okay, so they're not going to make a parking lot all the way to my
Yes,
backyard?
that's exactly, they are not proposing that at all. That's exactly correct. Yep.
Okay.
That's a great aspect to focus on. They are not doing it. So where Weiler.
Yet.
Yeah, but when they do, they increase the impervious surface area, they will be required to meet the detention
Okay.
regulations in time at that place, and I assume they're only going to get more strict as time goes on. Government doesn't like to.
The rezoning part, they're not going to do anything, any development on it?
There is nope. If you look at the screen right now, you see that little gray square, it's going to pop out here when I do this. This little gray square right here, when I zoom in again,
Yeah?
that's what they're proposing to develop. This new structure
Okay.
is right here. The
how big-
rezoning that we're talking
How
about,
big is that?
I believe it's 8,000 square feet.
8,032 square feet.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The dimensions are on the plans. I'll forget those. I apologize. So what they're proposing is, there's already parking lot in this area right now.
Okay.
They're proposing, really, they're just changing, I hate to say this, they're really just changing the color on a map. There is no development going out in here, nor will any be permitted through this.
Okay.
They're just, where this line, this thick line sort of is right now, right here, that's where the B2 zoning district ends for this property, almost at the back of the parking lot. So they've maxed out the area that they can build zoning. They could not receive zoning approval to build the structure they're talking about right now based on the amount of impervious asphalt and building that they have on their property right now, they've maxed out. Is that part, like, they've built out for what our zoning regulation says for a parcel in the B2 district. What they're proposing to us tonight is to increase the area of that district so they can build this building, but they're not increasing any, there will be no more, as far as I understand, there will be no more water from a building covering of the piece of the earth than there would be from asphalt covering the piece of the earth. Does that make sense?
Okay, I thought they were rezoning.
No,
it
sir.
to put a
No,
parking lot in the back
that's my
there.
fault for
what
not
my-
being clear.
That's what my concern is.
No, sir. There's no increase to the impervious area at this moment. But if that does become the case, I'm sure, correct me if I'm wrong, then the applicant would be required by Hamilton County. If they were going to say, hey, we want to cover more of the, let's just say grass, we'll go to the ground. We want, that's impervious surface where water can't pass through, so asphalt. If they're saying we want more of that on this piece of earth, then Hamilton County would require the new detention to kick in. So, because they're not proposing this, and again, I apologize for not being more clear, really what we're talking about, again, as kind of in the other case, it's just an administrative matter in the sense of the rezoning they're talking about tonight. It really is just changing the color on a map. There is no new development that'll come closer to your house or your property.
So the coyotes don't have to move.
Hopefully not. We'll see. Hopefully the good ones stay, the Wild E. But thank you, and I apologize for not making that more clear.
There are coyotes in those woods there,
Well,
several.
let's hope the technicians are aware of that and we don't lose any of them when this new building goes up. But again, we really do, I hope you understand me and the zoning commission as well. We do hear you, and we want to decrease the amount of erosion that's happening. In this matter, we don't have the ability to do so at all.
Okay.
But at the same time, nothing that's being proposed here would indicate that there would be an increase in that either. So it's sort of a one-for-one swap, sir.
Right.
And I believe in previous cases, were you the gentleman that has provided us with pictures?
Yes.
Maybe make some copies of those pictures and take them down to Hamilton County,
Okay.
just so they see as well. You know, it can't hurt to have more information.
The sewer, I showed you in the picture where the sewer now is completely all exposed.
And I remember you had pictures with tree roots where all the dirt has washed out underneath of the trees.
Yeah,
and-
there was a fence that my dad put up years ago, and one of the fence where it was anchored with concrete in the ground is just dangling in the air because it was all washed away. That's how, much damage it has done. And that sewer, is it, so deep that it's going to be below the freeze line now? You know what I'm saying? It's exposed. And my next door neighbor, Jack Clevidence, he tapped into that sewer, and we had to give him an easement to go through the yard to get rid of his septic tank. And he had to go through the creek to get onto where the tap into the sewer, because it's on the other side of the creek. That where he dug is exposed now. And that was well below the line back then. So yeah, there's plenty of damage, and like I say, it's getting wider and deeper every year. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh,
Thank you, sir.
I don't have any questions for him. I've got an issue on the request.
Okay. Next on the list, we have Ken Griffith.
That was the applicant, ma'am.
Oh,
You already wait.
hello. So if you wouldn't mind stepping back up, I believe you have a question.
Well,
for
no,
me, right?
my question is more to Jared.
Oh, boy.
Jared,
Fire away, sir.
why do we have to rezone this in any event?
Why do we have to? We don't have to.
I mean, why is the request there to rezone this? In other words, they need the land exactly the way it is. If we approve this zoning change to business, then sometime in the future, it is, in essence, makes it easier for them to expand their business because it's already zoned properly.
It would.
The nefarious side of me says that's what's taking place here. Okay, if we leave it the way it is, they accomplish their purpose in leaving the land open. They buy it, they own it. Okay, they can't develop it if we leave it the way it is. And don't we accomplish the same goal?
Well, two parts of that. The reason we're discussing this is because our office received an application for it, and as my job says, I have to bring it before you and do that, so that's part of that. The other aspect to that would be, I appreciate your nefarious side, that where you're thinking, and I understand, I'm probably the same way because I spend too much time in the office. However, the good thing about that would be if there is any increase, so what we're looking at, the plan we're looking at tonight, there is no increase to the impervious surface area. If we do approve this rezoning, recommend approval for the rezoning, and in the future, the business owner or whoever owns the property at the time would like to expand, that would trigger an increase, most likely. I can't fathom a way they could expand their business without some kind of impervious surface. That would require the newer detention levels being met.
But that's under Hamilton County's control.
That is under Hamilton County's control.
The only thing that's under our control is zoning. So if they do anything without telling us, or want to do anything, they have to come back here, and if we, in essence, give away all of our negotiating points by approving this and making it business, then it becomes a Hamilton County issue.
Let's see. Yeah, possibly. I'm trying to track all it, but one, I would say we'd always want to shy away from making a decision based on a presumption that's not a facts as presented to us. Based on the facts that have been presented to us, everything within our zoning resolution has been met, as far as I understand, and I missed stuff.
Except that the property is single-family dwelling.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yep.
And I'm saying, if there's not going to do anything with the property, why not just leave it the way it is until unless they actually want to do something with that property and make them come back?
You would be well within your right to vote in that manner and to make a motion indicating such. I'm just not sure. Again, I'm not recommending that or recommending the other. Anyway, I would never recommend. I'm just saying based on the zoning resolution as it exists and the plan as it's presented, it meets all the review criteria. To now step outside of the factual part, in my opinion, based upon this rezoning, in a really weird roundabout way, this actually, again, in my opinion, this would increase the probability that the property owner could further develop this land down the road and then have to meet those more stringent water retention detention standards.
Based on Hamilton County control.
Based on Hamilton County, well,
That's all the control you have.
yeah,
That's all the control we have is Hamilton County.
No, it's a negotiating point. It's all.
Not
all
on
control
stormwater,
we
it's
have with
not.
that. We have negotiated, these people want something from us.
And-
I'm saying that's perfectly fine.
and then,
That's what zoning's all about. We have something they want, fine. When it becomes a point that they want to do something with that property, they've got something we want. Okay?
Absolutely, yep.
That's the time to trade. Now is not the time to just say, hey, go ahead and let's change the zoning for you because we're nice guys, and we lose all control.
Let me ask a question.
okay.
I thought the reason that the zoning was actually being requested was to build the 8,030 square foot building, they need additional green space.
That is correct.
That's why it's here.
That is
They're not
correct.
doing it just to be nice and just to go through.
But they've got that with the zoning the way it is now.
They
can buy
don't.
the
They can't build the 8,030 square foot building now.
property. They own the property.
Doesn't matter.
Real quick, just to clarify, because if we're ever spot, so if you look on the screen right now, so where the red line ends, well, my pointer disappeared, so right here is almost, at this line is almost the edge of the existing parking lot as it stands, give or take a little bit. What the applicant's proposing would be an expansion of a non-conforming parcel because the impervious surface area of the parcel that they've covered so far, the whole parcel, the district zone B2 for this use is fully covered almost. So they don't meet the current zoning resolution. So you're right. So they're coming to us, asking us to extend this district, this B2 district, basically out to this line here, which, and it, correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like it dovetails perfectly with our proposed land use, well, our now existing land use plan, excuse me. So it really, everything they've proposed indicates that in essence, they've met the resolution and there would be no reason to deny it. Now, based on the testimony tonight and also from previous hearings about the water issue, you could, if you wanted to, oh boy, there it goes, clicks off. If you wanted to, you could add to, one, you can completely throw my conditions out. So always make that clear. You could add a condition to there that engineer, a qualified engineer, propose a water study or a hydraulic study, whatever it would be, showing what the current runoff is, what the proposed would be. You could add that condition, you're welcome to.
But if we don't approve the zoning, can they still, why can't they build the building?
Well, and so to clarify that part too, though, so tonight, the zoning committee, as it's structured through the ORC, the zoning commission makes a recommendation to the Board of Trustees. So the vote tonight is either a recommendation to approve, a recommendation to approve with modifications, and then, or conditions, as we call those, conditions of approval, or a recommendation to deny. The trustees, if any of their vote are counter to the vote from tonight, they need a majority vote, if that makes sense. So what I'm trying to paint the picture of, if there's a condition you feel needs to be imposed, it would be incumbent on you to add that to that, and
Why can't they build the building with it zoned the way it is?
They need the additional space, right?
they have,
Even though they own.
Even though they're building on the land they have, in order to have enough, buffer, is that what the issue is?
the amount of asphalt or building on the
Own
parcel,
the property, they've got that.
No, because there's no building there. When they put the building there, there's going to be additional requirements that they can't meet. But by getting that additional B2 space, then they will meet those.
So it's gotta be B2 space that they have.
So if they don't get this, if it's not approved, there's no building. That's
They
essentially,
are doing
that's
it
why
in-
they're applying.
they are increasing the intensity of use upon their parcel. Okay.
I'm just saying, listen, if I own the property, if I'm they, and if I own the property, I own the property, I've got the additional space.
Well, a lot of people think yeah, and they're trying to comply in building that building. They want to comply with the zoning, correct?
Yes. Yep. And just again, to bring back and reiterate, if there's a condition you would like added on there,
There's no condition.
no, okay.
I wanna understand why.
Oh, sure, okay.
Having it as residential property zone, if they own it, is different than having as B6 property owned, if they own it. And you're saying the difference is, it's gotta be B6 for them to build the building, just the fact that they
B2.
own it is residential. doesn't count.
So the impervious surface coverage area for a B2 parcel, this is 75% for the B2 district of their parcel. So they own the whole parcel. Let's just say it's whatever, just make it nice, easy numbers. Let's say it's 10 acres. 5 acres is B2, 5 acres is R6. The 5 acres that's B2 is almost completely either asphalt or buildings, for the most part, almost entirely. So they're over their 75%. So they cannot increase the intensity of use at all. They're what's called a legal pre-existing non-conforming. In this scenario we're talking about tonight, where they want to build a new structure, that is an increase in the intensity of use of that property. Granted, it's still impervious, the same amount roughly as what asphalt is, I would presume. But it's where there was asphalt and a parking lot that's pre-existing non-conforming, now they want to build a structure. If they want to do that, as it exists now, the only way they can do it is by increasing the portion of their 10-acre parcel, let's just say to 7.5 acres, to meet that, to where they're not at, like, let's say it's 89% impervious surface, to get below the 75.
I'll talk to you afterwards, by the way. I don't think you,
That's all right.
that's fine.
But I also agree, again, generally, if there's, zoning exists for the health, safety, and welfare. That's the only reason that way, if there is an aspect here that's not covered with that, and you want to make or add a condition to this, that an engineer show us that report, we'll have a meeting next month. You can, let's see, right at the trustee meeting, so it could be before the trustee hearing as well, to be reviewed. I can send out to the commissioners. That would be well within your right to say, okay, if there's ever a question of technical difficulty, I can pull up the zoning resolution. We are allowed to say we need a third-party qualified expert to submit a plan indicating as such. We could do that if you want to. It's not a bad recommendation given what's going on here. I would, again, suspect regardless of whatever's presented, Hamilton County is going to make them meet that requirement if it gets triggered or not. If it doesn't get triggered, the third-party expert could say whatever, and it may not change anything. I'm not sure if that adequately addresses your concerns. I hope it does, but, okay.
Is it just basically a game of math?
If you would approach, sir, you may. I believe, sorry. If the zoning commission says you can, sir, pardon me. Sorry.
May I
Okay.
present this to Jared? It's the letter from the Hamilton County.
Please give it to Ms. McMullen. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, I believe what he said.
Would you pass it down so the other side, to see if they want to look at, thanks, Mr. Wilson.
And then handing us this becomes part of the record. Do you need a copy of it back?
If you need it back, I can scan it and get it back to you, sir. We'll be,
Okay, thank you. So just for the audience members, it is a letter from Hamilton County that says for this specific building addition, it will be exempt. If they add any other small building or parking lot, this area will be added to the proposed area to determine the detention. If you would pass it over to Jared, please.
thank you, Mr. Wilson.
All right, so
Thank you,
do
Mr.
we
Becker.
have any other questions, commissioners?
I think we have the audience.
And then do we have any other members of the audience? Oh, you are not signed in. Did you wish to speak? Okay. So she will, did you already get sworn in?
Okay.
She was sworn in.
Okay,
Please
thank
state
you.
your name and address, ma'am.
Jane Pfister, 8883 Russet Drive. So my property is, that backs on my property, and at 88 Russet. Can you show that on the map, or is that?
I used to be able to, and it won't let me, miss. I'll try to as you speak. I apologize. It's
Okay.
embarrassing.
That's okay. Well, this whole thing with the water, we bought our place in 1965. And, you know, it was just a nice little creek in back of the house, and it was really nice. And you might remember that there was a place on Colerain Avenue called Matfield Gardens, and they had this wonderful lake, and it was just so perfect and everything. Well, then that didn't last too long because they filled up the pond, and it, you know, it was a mess. And then they built that shopping center there, and I think it was there for a while, and it was J.C. Penney's and all that. And that's when all the big water problems started with the, you know, the creek washing out. And my kids used to love to play in the creek and everything, but I said, hey, if it rains, you got to stay up here because it's like a torrent going through there. So as more things get filled up, of course, there's more rainwater wash off. There is also, on the other side of the creek, there is a sewer. We have tapped into that sewer when we built the place. So I don't know how, I haven't looked at it lately. I know it just keeps getting worse. The more, of course, the more building there is, the worse it gets. Also, there's an awful lot of stores that are vacant, you know, and you think, what the heck was the use of tearing all that down, you know, that beautiful pond. So, which one is my house there?
I believe, is this yours right here, miss?
Which one?
Oh, sorry, yeah, laser goes away when I zoom in. Right here?
Oh, that's it.
That's not 888, Russell?
Oh, that's Zachman's. Mine is the little house that's kind of catty-corner.
It's to the left of that,
Set on
Jerry.
an angle, because we were at the end of the road there. And it's a private drive, and very nice. We have a lot of gigantic trees in front. It's really nice. I was really just concerned because of the water situation, you know, continuing to get worse. And while I was sitting back there, I thought of a suggestion that if he doesn't ever intend to use the property, you know, just needs it to be rezoned for, you know, requirements, maybe you could consider putting a pond back there or putting some trees that would, would help, to hold the water, something of that nature. I'm just thinking about that, I love trees, so. And that's about all I have to say. Mr. Zachman lives, over there too. I thought other people were going to be here, but I guess I'm just the lone voice, Yeah, I really just mainly, we're all concerned about the water situation.
If I may, I would gently encourage you, one, that's a great idea, as far as if the property owner wanted to discuss having a pond there, maybe at the Board of Trustees hearing as well might be a good time to bring that up as well as potential discuss. I know in the past, some people, especially in some property owners, not people, in areas tend to flooding or have donated that property to a conservancy. And I know it's happened before, so sometimes property owners like to unload that if it's going to help them. It's an option. It's not, I don't think anything we require, but if they wanted to look into that, it may help them.
Trying to, figure out something. And then the creek raging through there has actually taken out some trees in the back, large trees, because they just can't take being washed away all the time. So, okay, thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, miss. Thank you for...
Okay, was there anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we do need a motion to close our public hearing.
So moved?
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Allen?
Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Gearing?
No.
Mr. Westfall?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. Gearing, just to confirm, did you vote no?
To close the public hearing?
I just want to confirm I heard correctly. Okay, just want to make sure, I heard correctly thank you.
Okay, and commissioners, any other questions for staff?
Just a clarification of that parcel number modification. What was that?
Would you look at the screen and just confirm that's correct, Mr. Griffith, that I changed on the screen there, but not on, obviously on your, sorry, sir?
I believe it's correct.
Okay, so the parcel combination, and thank you for bringing that up, and thank you for clarifying the record, 510-0093-0015 and 510-0093-0144 are the parcels to be combined. Excellent. I apologize for that typo. I'm glad you caught it. Thank you very much for catching that. And thank you, Mr. Bachman.
All right, at this time, is there anyone who would like to make a motion? A motion for the case?
That was a motion to close the public hearing.
Yes.
Second.
We need a motion to approve or deny.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed zoning map amendment as submitted with the 3 conditions outlined by staff. Should I read those?
Do
or?
we have a second?
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve with the 3 conditions.
And let's let people know what those are.
Okay, the first condition is that parcels 510-0093-0015-00 and 510-0093-144-00 must be combined before the zoning administrator may issue zoning certificate for the proposed service structure. Number 2, that the applicant shall be required to receive approval from all other applicable agencies prior to a zoning certificate for the proposed service structure. And 3rd, that the property owner agrees to designate a 25-foot cross-access easement, so 30-foot cross-access easement if the applicant would like the future access roads to qualify as lot frontage across parcel the previous parcels that we, nope, across parcel 510-0093-0015-00 and parcel 510-0093-0076-00 in order to participate in a good faith effort to achieve the automobile connectivity as described within the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan. Imagine Colerain. With that read, Mr. Alec, can we have a vote, please?
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Would you come back to me, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Gearing? No. Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
No.
All right. And Ms. McMullen?
Yes.
Just to reflect for the record, that was 3 yeas and 2 noes on that. Thank you,
Yes.
Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Griffith, and thank you to Mr. Nagel, and I didn't get the name, but thank you for showing up again.
All right. So now we are on to item number 6, an informal concept review. It is IRC 2023-03 for 7679 East Miami River Road. And Mr. Alec, can you provide some context for us?
I will try to do so thoroughly, but not exhaustively. Before us tonight is an informal concept review for the property stated on East Miami River Road. The applicant is also the property owner. Mr. Paul Bowman is listed as the applicant, and they requested an informal concept review with the Colerain Township Zoning Commission to discuss a potential rezoning of the property to PDM, which is exciting for me because we don't have a PDM in Colerain Township, which is a mixed-use plan development. And really, that's simply just a combination of in this case, residential and business use upon the same parcel. So I hope you guys understand my excitement on this, and I'll try and be professional without being too giddy. Moving to the very northern edge of the township, right on both the township line and the county line, is the parcel in question tonight. It is on the northeast side of US 27, right near the interchange with East Miami River Road. The parcel itself is zoned R2, surrounded by the small F nearby. Also, there's some B3 nearby as well, which most of you may recall that's sort of remnant of the old P&G research facility. And then to the north, it's in Butler County in Fairfield Township. It is zoned A1. And this is Fairfield Township's zoning map. The red star, if you can see on the bottom left here, that's the property we're discussing tonight. A1 are all these green parcels. That's what they are zoned. Yeah, okay, cool. And that's indicated on here. A1 is what that zoning is. That would come up potentially in a future meeting. The topography of the site, not significant relief, elevation or depression one way or the other. It does slope slightly, moving from the west to the east. And although it shows on here as a pond, it's a depression that probably just water filled and probably shot back some letter signatures for water, I'm guessing. But when I drove by the property there, I couldn't see a pond, but I'm sure the applicant will correct me if I'm wrong if it is there. But admittedly, I didn't get out and walk it because it's not my property. This is a copy of the application that was presented to our department, the letter of intent. Here's the applicable land use and designation of the area, Western Colerain. This is, as was approved in the Imagine Colerain plan. It is the zoning or development department's intent. There will possibly be a modification to this in the coming presentation and approval of our zoning resolution, specifically focused on areas on the interchange. But that's sort of a conversation for another time. Highlighted here, it just sort of describes the intersection of Yateman and US 27, which I know a lot of people take issue with that because it doesn't exist. And then the former P&G site, I believe it should be Kemper on there, where Yateman meets Colerain is different, but I digress. Again, given the heavy and intensive use of the area out there, and there are multiple parcels out there, that are pre-existing non-conforming businesses currently running. Staff's opinion is that this proposal is not out of line with the current plan. Although not exactly following with some parts of it, it's not really that far out of line, given a lot of the use in the area. The applicable zoning resolutions are all found in 9.3. Really, the purpose of a planned district gives the commission and the board of trustees the ability to work with the applicant to basically get a design where we were just discussing the previous case where it's a single letter zoning district and a use of by right. You don't really get to put as many conditions on it. In a planned district, you could. So if the zoning commission and board of trustees, thought that the plan presented needed more of something, it could be added on here through this process. And 9.3 just describes what the planned districts are supposed to represent, also the uses allowed, and then same thing, that they would require zoning district change. So if the applicant received positive feedback, negative feedback, and then submit a plan to our department in the future to rezone this, then it would come back for an actual a vote, either to recommend approval or denial. Again, just as an informal concept review. Really, the intent is to get a feeling from the zoning commission and the applicant to see how close they are, how far they are, and staff for meeting plans as indicated. I think I've said enough on that one. And then as proposed, so staff's findings were as proposed with the it's a general basic plan at the moment. The applicant's plans to rezone the parcel. There's a typo in there, I apologize. As a PDM, mixed-use plan development, would align well with the current land use in the area, that being that there are existing businesses in the area, and with the future plans of Colerain Township for the specific areas within certain distances of US 27 interchanges. That's East Miami River Road, Kemper Road, and the Colerain area. We'll be proposing some redistricting there as the zoning resolution moves through its process, which should be near the end of the year. So around that time or early next spring. So staff's recommendation, based on what we've seen so far, it would be possible or likely to recommend approval of the proposed zoning map. Again, should it come before the commission as an actual application to rezone. Again, some conditions probably we want to think of with landscaping and screening, consideration as of the hours of operation, maybe outdoor lighting, traffic circulation, site ingress and egress, and I'll let the applicant discuss their business and their proposed use there. That concludes staff's report.
Thank you. So we have two individuals that have signed in wishing to speak. So first, if the applicant
Do you want a
can come
motion
forward.
to open a public hearing?
It's just an
informal.
informal concept
Oh, it's just
review.
formal, okay. Sorry. I'm just,
He loves swearing people in. He's getting
No.
his squats in tonight, up and down.
it's the only time I get a chance to talk.
We appreciate your eagerness.
So you've had to sit through two very formal cases before you. So this is an informal review where we're going to have some dialogue going back and forth, and it's the intent is just to help you in an informal way bring something back to us that we can hopefully just approve and send on to the trustees. So don't be nervous speaking with us. We're actually a good bunch of people who will get through this conversation with you. So first, if you wouldn't mind taking us through your idea of the plan, that would be great.
So we have dump trucks, and we've been in business since 1998. We're a family-owned dump truck company. My father actually has purchased the property already. We were kind of in the process, but we decided we really were hoping we could, make this work for everybody. We are currently, our office, we lease a space in Sharonville, Ohio. And then our trucks are parked about a mile away at a shop down the road. I've always wanted to have my dump trucks and my office be at the same location. And I would like to build a residential home on the back of the property. And on the front of the property, I would like to have a small shop just for like tire changes and small things like that. We still have a mechanic that we've worked with from day one that would do all the major repairs. Not looking to run a shop or anything like that on the property. Basically, the trucks would only be there for parking because they leave every day and they go to work. So they typically leave around 6:30 or 7 in the morning, and they come home about 5 or 5:30 in the evening. There wouldn't be any actual work going on there. It would be my office that we would have. So it would basically like at a 9 to 5 kind of office, thing with that. We were interested in putting a sound barrier on the side instead of a fence because it tends to work out just as well sometimes, and then plant trees along the top of it. Again, really just the truck starting and leaving in the morning would be the only sound that would be affected because there's no like construction or anything like that going on in our business. We don't do any of that. We work off-site. So there is a pond that it doesn't hold very much water, but it is there and it's pretty significant. It's, you know, it needs filled. So while we were here, we would actually like to ask tonight what the process is to begin filling that, because no matter what we do, if we don't get approved for rezoning, you can't, it needs to be filled to level the property. We would like to have this done within 1 to 2 years if possible. That would be, first step would be filling it, putting the office there, and then building the residence in the second, on the back part of it. If we don't get it rezoned to mixed use, we can't park commercial vehicles on our site, so that's what we're going for.
Okay, are you ready for some questions? All right, have you spoken to your neighbors?
No.
Okay,
He just purchased, this just went through with like a couple weeks ago, so
okay.
we just acquired it.
And when you say sound barrier, what is it that you have in mind?
Like a dirt, like the, you know, like they have, I don't know what else they call it, but you know, like you see them along the side of like major roads when they have like houses that are beside there.
So like a dirt mound?
Like, yeah, a large dirt mound, you know. So it would, for visual, you know, it would be, you know, we'd seed it and straw, you know, everything, so for that, so they wouldn't have to look at us. And it would kind of keep us separate, so they didn't have to, you know, the guys, my guys aren't, you know, disrupting them at all as well in the mornings.
Is your area primarily a flat area, or are you in more of a valley to where having the, I think I read in the plan, 12 trucks where when they start their engines early in the morning, I'm thinking like 5, 6 in the morning is my guess.
Right there where he has his light is we would be parking the trucks along, which that is Colerain Avenue right there. So they would be pointing, you know, the back of them would be on Colerain Avenue. So when they start up, and then they would probably hear the trucks coming down the driveway and leaving the facility. The neighbors are on the other side, back there, yeah.
And just one house, you said?
Yes, just me.
And I saw in there that it mentioned a shed as well.
I mean, it depends on if the house, if we have a garage or not. I mean, we haven't made plans for the house, like we haven't like had the design for it yet.
Okay, those are my questions, gentlemen.
I can't read your note on the driveway. Maybe is it a driveway approach that you want to do on?
Possible entrance, that's what that says, because right where it comes in, the exit to that, it would be pulling straight into it, so as long as it would allow. I mean, we're gonna have an architectural design person come out and do a better picture, but this is the preliminary. I mean, that's basically what we're thinking, what that looks like, but it's obviously not professional. But that's where we're thinking we would like the driveway to come in, is right there directly across from the East Miami River Road.
So the driveway, I'm just kind of confused. The driveway, though, you show on Highway 27. Sorry, the driveway you're illustrating on Highway 27, or am I reading it wrong?
You were reading it correct.
I think the two roads are switched.
Yeah, it's switched. It's switched.
So Highway 27 is actually East Miami River Road.
Correct.
And so let me just make my change here.
Because of the slope on that side of the property, we wouldn't have access to Colerain Avenue. That would I don't.
Well, not only, I think, a topographic issue element, but I believe that's limited access by the state of Ohio, so I don't think you can access it anyway. The existing zoning is R2, is that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And that would allow just the one single family, or could that be
Yes, sir.
several? Just one?
One single family, yep.
One single family, okay. And it looks like you've got some gravel, obviously, for the parking of your dump trucks and stuff. And you talked a little bit about the mechanic, but you would be doing shop work from 9 to 5?
No.
You would
So,
not?
no, the only time that there would be work on the trucks would be like a tire repair or an oil or grease job. So those are done, like
As
30,
needed?
45 minutes as
Mhm.
needed, yeah.
Okay.
It's not every day.
Okay. And you also show that potentially you would have access from the neighbor's driveway? Is that how I read that?
No, so it's not the neighbor's driveway. The property, we just don't know if we can pull straight through or if we would have to come around the side. Like, we would have to find out what's allowed right there, if we would be allowed to put the driveway straight across.
Okay.
If
Okay.
not, we would come in on the edge if we had to turn.
Okay, I got you. Okay. Okay, well, I mean, we could dissect this all night for you and ask questions. I guess I just have a fundamental concern of the truck parking on that particular piece of property. Given the aerials that I see from Butler County folks of strict residential that are next door and adjacent to it, I just think allowing and rezoning for similar uses like Ross mulch and Watson gravel that are down the road that Mr. Alec, you mentioned. I just don't know if that's the appropriate thing for this corner, but that's just my thoughts.
Thank you, sir.
And just to be clear, this is two neighbors. It's not one house and like an
There are
off-site
two,
garage.
so, yes.
There's two homes off the one curb cut off of East Miami River Road. It forks. And what we're seeing here, I believe, is one house and maybe a garage on your plan?
On mine, yes.
Yeah, and there's a whole nother residence to, I would call the right or to the east of that, correct?
There's another house up towards the front.
So there's three neighbors total.
Two, I believe. Let me pull up the aerial here.
I don't know if it's going to
It
display.
doesn't look like that, like the way it is on there. They're further apart. There's one, when you pull in, there's one over to the side, and then as you go all the way back to the back of the property.
This
there's
portion is one residence. This is a house, and they're, I'm assuming, detached garage. This is in Butler County, Fairfield Township right here.
Right.
And there's another, I don't know why I won't display, I apologize.
It's all right.
But there is another parcel up there. But you can see right here where the two driveways
It's the fork, yeah.
are displaying, and I believe they kind of connect right over here. I'll find a better representation of that. Just one second.
So then the sound barrier, the proposed sound barrier would go between the house that you wish to build and then the neighbor's.
And all the way up
Garage.
the line of the property. We were gonna take it all the way up the property line.
So again, it would just be a mound of grass.
Yes.
Are you going to do any
And
type of?
trees on top. We're gonna plant trees on top of it. Those take a while though, so we wanted to do something initially.
And since this is informal, you are able to ask questions of us as well. I didn't know if you had any pieces that you would like clarified or any guidance or.
Yeah, well, just to make sure, because how do I say it more, that it's not like a Watson's or a mulch place, because they're in and out constantly. They're picking up and taking out and coming back, and the traffic is not gonna be what a Watson's or something like that is. It's different. It would be just basically for, leaving and entering at the end of the day.
And I understand that, and that is different, but on weekends, you're going to have 12 trucks parked on gravel. On the mornings, those residents are going to hear you guys warming the diesel up and getting going. Just as I sit here, and you're asking for our input, so I'm giving it to you how I feel. I just struggle with that use on that pretty high visibility lot. Given that, you're already thinking of a residential home on the piece of property which it's zoned for. So I guess that's kind of where I was thinking is you're already putting a home on it, which it's zoned for. But you want to do additional, which I understand, it makes sense for your business. And you don't want to rent any more in Sharonville. I totally understand that. I just wonder if it's just too much intensity on that lot. Just, those are my thoughts.
I was involved in a development off of Interstate 75, and we used a 6-foot, and it was residential housing versus office space. And we used a 6-foot berm with trees planted on the top. And it worked out. It worked out fine, both for noise and, you know, you give a couple of years for the trees to grow, and houses are doing fine.
It's visually so much more appealing than a fence.
Yeah, and the trees buffer the noise. Depending on what kind of trees you put there, they put fir trees and it buffered the noise quite well. I don't know what it'll do with a diesel engine, but, you know.
I used, when I was younger, I rented a property off of Avenue from Rumpke, and you hear the cars constantly. It's never ending, so I don't know that, I mean, obviously it's going to be more, but it's not that much louder than what you're hearing constantly from the cars and the trucks and the, you know, they're putting their Jake brakes on and everything right there at those turns and stuff. It's pretty loud already.
That's what I was going to say. Is I don't have a significant concern about the trucks, just given that it is on a pretty high traffic corner there.
Okay. Any other questions? We do have one other person that was signed in to speak.
So that was me. Can she come up here to read the? This is my daughter, Brenna. She also works with the company. She manages the office.
So it's kind of like a sound barrier, it's a windrow. So it's going to be a humongous mound in a way. So yes, we're going to make it look a lot nicer, but she wants to live there too. So we're also going to try to make it seem as if we don't want to hear the noise as well. And it is going to be able to bounce off, so where the neighbors won't be able to even see or hear us.
Could I ask, Jared, are structures in PDMs subject to the same sort of setbacks as other? I'm just noticing the house on this, at least, is drawn very close to the property line. I was kind of curious what the setbacks are for this.
So as was brought up in an earlier case, at the beginning of this meeting tonight, if we go through planned district, a variance can be granted for any area setback. So if in this case, the applicant wanted to, present a plan where the house was right on the property line, if the commission thought that was acceptable and recommends for approval, that you could grant a variance for that. In addition, as Klaus brought up, I can't imagine it'd be a whole lot louder than the traffic already there. And I would really wonder if putting this, a berm or mound up covered with landscaping might even reduce the current noise lower overall. And I believe also it's a controlled access, there's a traffic light at the interchange there, I believe. So you'd have some pretty loud accelerating vehicles all day long as it is. I would ask if I'm allowed, is that, sorry.
No, that's great, thank you.
I'm sorry. Do you guys use GPS trackers in your vehicles currently? That might be data you might want to show at a future hearing where you could say, here's, they leave at this time, run for this time, they go and they come back. It could help paint the picture. Also, if you had a plan where you were minimizing any potential for the trucks to back up, I'm assuming they have backup alarms on them. So if you could show a plan where your traffic circulation pattern for this site took that into mind, that could be one less thing. So at, 5:30, whatever it is, the neighbors aren't hearing 12 beep, beep, beeps, driving them insane. Not to say it never happened, but all that. Again, so part of staff's consideration of all this was again, how densely traveled that portion is. I mean, it's a state route, Mr. Bachman brought up, it's controlled access, so you definitely want to get with Hamilton County to see where they'd even approve doing an access point on East Miami River Road. They might require it right at the light, and there might be a fee to put in a new traffic light. So that's a agency definitely want to contact, as well as all the others. You talked about filling the pond, that was brought up again at a different hearing. You kind of got a little bit of flavor of everything tonight. That's for a county agency, soil and water. So that you'd want to reach out with them and they do pre-application meetings as well, which I'll reach out with you and set that up. We do like a kind of conference meeting if you want to. I apologize. So does that cover everything? All right.
Anything we should make sure we have included before we go to our next meeting and have all the neighbors there? And
Oh, he
Yeah, that's-
likes paperwork.
Well, I don't know if I'd say I like it. I don't like it. It's a necessary evil. We have an application form. I'll give you that as a checklist. You'll want to contact like a surveyor and engineer and have them drop some of the plans you saw tonight. It'd be the same thing, preliminary development plan, pretty basic. Final development plan, which you'd be required to bring back. That's a lot more intense and involved. And that has to be prepared by a professional engineer, surveyor, or planner. But we can deal with that. Right now, you're just seeing what they like, what concerns they have, and hopefully you've gotten good feedback. Are there any questions you haven't had answered on the other side?
Well, you asked the question, and I think it's perfect to say, I think you should talk to your neighbors. Especially if you're going to live there and be a neighbor, I would talk to them and say, here's what I'm planning on doing, and get their feedback. And see if you can incorporate any of if they have concerns, into the development plan that you submit.
Right, because when you do come back with a preliminary and a final, there is a public hearing, so your neighbors will receive the invitations to come and speak. So it would be best to talk to them a little early in the project as well, so that way you don't have individuals coming to speak against your plan. And I agree what you were saying with the backing up in the morning. So if you can create some type of plan where they're backing up when they are coming into the building with the flow at night, so that way the beep beep's happening during dinner rather than that's your wake-up call.
We do all back in, that's required, they have to back
Okay.
in work, so that would, I can stress that, you know,
Okay.
at the-
Got you. Anything else from anyone? How about you? Anything else?
I mean, we're open to changes. If you don't like where the trucks are parked, nothing's finalized yet. We just have a general idea. So
I like that the truck bay and the proposed office, I like that they are seemingly as far away from the neighbors. You went with the opposite corner. So I do appreciate that part. It'll be interesting what the architect comes up with as well.
Well, thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Good luck. All right, so we are at old business, seeing none, and no new business. No administration, and that
On the
brings.
updated agenda, there should be administration. It's on the screen. It'd be discussion of the proposed text amendments that I believe I mentioned in January, and then they kind of died in February. Excuse me, pardon me. If that'd be okay with you, Ms. McMullen, to show that, or discuss that.
Yes, please.
Okay, I apologize.
No, it's okay.
I
I had
updated
the
the
one
agenda.
where I had 9 and 10 reversed.
Excuse me.
That's perfect.
So on that note, very rarely do meetings ever flow this well, where something is mentioned and then it perfectly dovetails into something I attempted to plan prior. We have many instances in Colerain Township where sort of, maybe not quite the intensity of what was just discussed now, a sort of a large-scale company with multiple employees, but we do have, we seem to have quite a few residents who own commercial vehicles, as that's designated, I guess, by ODOT or whoever it is, the federal motor carrier, so whatever it is, that seem to like to park their vehicles at their house, and there is nothing that exists within the Colerain Township zoning resolution that would provide any ability for them to do so. Pardon me. So if the commission has any desire to propose a motion for me to draft some type of potential text amendment that would provide that, again, just a arbitrary number kind of point, I would think out of violation cases, we have probably at least 10 active. Discussing a commercial vehicle parked on a residential lot where that's an issue. And then beyond that would be there's no even permitted use in a non-residential district to permit the parking of large vehicles. Excuse me. So that would be one request, a text amendment to direct staff to draft a proposed text amendment to address this issue. And if you like it, great. If you don't, we can modify it or just let it die and deny it. So that being one.
Is that something that we would have to vote on tonight? I'm
That
assuming?
is correct. The commission would have to make a motion to direct staff to prepare those amendments, and then they'd be presented at next month's meeting, which we do have business for. So we wouldn't be creating a special meeting just for this.
Do you want to do these one at a time?
And that's completely up to the commission. You can do one at a time, or you can do both. If you want, I can tell you both, and then you can decide, or?
Violations, the penalties, and the commercial vehicle parking in one motion to bring back text amendments next month, or do we want to do individual votes on these?
If I get,
One?
if I get any say, I'd ask for one, because it helps the minutes. But, but it's up to you. It's up.
A point at the same time, do we have anything on file for VRB, vacation rentals?
By owner?
We do not. The closest thing we have is our bed and breakfast.
It was interesting this past weekend. I was out. I do get out occasionally. And a friend of my son's was there. He had relatives in town. And they were, if you've ever seen this yellow building down here on Springdale Road, on the right-hand side, that's a yellow house.
Leading this direction or heading towards Northgate Mall?
Towards Harrison Avenue.
Okay, gotcha, okay. Gotcha.
And on the right-hand side, there's now a little farm. They were staying in that yellow house. That's a
Right by Brim?
rental.
Okay.
And they were only there for a couple of days. They said the house was very nice, but it's not too far from where I live. I don't know if we need to regulate those things, if that's a common occurrence in Colerain Township or not.
That is a fun topic. Currently, that specific use is not a permitted use in our zoning resolution. That is captured, however, by our rental registration resolution that the trustees passed, I believe is November of last year, but it goes into effect June of this year. Then I believe there might be an Ohio Revised Code amendment that took place from, I believe it's Mr. Bless, I believe, that was supposed to address that. I don't know the status of that, if it passed or not. All is to say, we address it through rental registration, but it's not an approved use through the zoning resolution.
If the houses aren't marked, I guess the only way you find out about this is the way I did. And it might be of interest to people to know that every day, every weekend, they may have different neighbors.
It would definitely be of interest for multiple reasons, and I know there's all kinds of articles out there about problems caused. But, there's a benefit to it, and there's also the pro and the con side too.
Would this be the time to include it with these?
It would definitely be the time if you want to do that. I'm concerned that I'd have adequate time to research that between now and then. I can take a stab at it. I hate saying that.
Well, if we did the two that you suggested, say, for a future date, and let you determine the time frame for.
That would be great.
There's two of them, there's a vacation rental by owner, and there's another one.
Airbnb.
Yeah, and then that would definitely be a great question. Again, for really, we'd have to have the law director research exactly what we are allowed and not allowed to regulate. I know there was an update to the ORC specifically to address that. I just can't recall what the outcome of that was. May I ask something like, can I present some more intelligent findings to you at the next meeting? And maybe based on that, see if we'd be at the right time to motion or not? Most likely.
We say at a future meeting, that way, if you don't get it ready by next meeting, it gives you time to.
That would be great.
Put it on the scoreboard.
that would be great. And then just keep in mind again, with any text amendment, a motion from the zoning commission, there's that 30-day window. So the motion happens, like tonight, for instance, that the two we're discussing, and then possibly a third, the motion happens now. I have 30 days to prepare and present to you, and then at the next month's hearing, you review them. If you like them, you approve them. If you need them modified, they're modified, and then it goes to the Board of Trustees. If we miss that window, by law, they die, and then, but they can be brought back up again. But I'll do whatever you tell me to do. But
For the commercial vehicle parking, do you already have a text amendment in place that you plan to present to us next month?
no, it'd be a little bit of a conglomerate. I've done some research, some other areas that address that, and then also looking specific areas that we have those come up in. So it'd really be like some area requirements. It have to be like inside of a accessory structure. There's some people who do it very responsibly and considerate of their neighbors, and there's some people who do it very irresponsibly and inconsiderate of their neighbors.
So is it something where if we discuss putting the violations and penalties, because we know that you already have that in place for us to discuss next month, which I know we're still going to talk about, but can we have a placeholder on our next agenda that prompts us to say, hey, we need to direct you next month to create the commercial vehicle parking and look into the VRBO? So we handle two
Sure.
text amendments next month and then prompt you for two more, and then the following month,
Well,
then move through.
tonight's motion should prompt the commercial vehicle one. That's the prohibited home occupation is all under that commercial vehicle one. So that's portion one of the presentation tonight. Portion two of it is the violations, defining violations and increasing violations. So at next month's meeting, I would have prepared for you the proposed text amendment for the commercial vehicles, or in this case, at the heading on there is that prohibited home occupation, so / commercial vehicles on that. So that would be prepared by next month's meeting, as well as the violations. And then if you would like to direct me, if you'd be so kind to give me the direction to have more information presented to you at next month's meeting on the VRBOs, or vacation rentals, and allow our law director to do his research as well, to make sure we're not entering territory we shouldn't. Is that fair, or does that cover what everyone's asking?
Yep, I think so.
So then, in the administration item tonight, I see what I did. I put in announcements tonight. Dang it. All right, you always I'm sorry. What should have been in administration, but apparently I guess an announcement, that's not far off, would be my request to the zoning commission to make a motion to prepare, for planning staff to prepare a text amendment for prohibited home occupation / commercial vehicle use in residential districts, and then also for a text amendment for our violations portion, which is Article 5 of the zoning resolution. And the discussion on that is basically we've done a substantial amount of research into this so far, but again, it'll be verified. But the ORC states the maximum penalty for a violation of a zoning resolution for a township zoning resolution is $500. And then in the monetary statement, in I believe it's chapter 29, oh, I better be careful, 27 or 29 of the ORC, any penalty that has a maximum financial fine that can be imposed on it of $500 is a Class 3 misdemeanor, which is, I believe, up to 60 days in jail. So basically, our resolution would be given the ability for, so if they wanted to, the municipal court judges who were to view this, to impose stricter penalties upon violators of our zoning. Right now, in the zoning resolution, I believe it's in 2018 or 16, it was added that there was a direction supposedly from the Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office for us to put minor in front of the word misdemeanor in our text in Article 5, and that's not a requirement anywhere. I suspect there was confusion on that because what is a minor misdemeanor is a violation of, make sure I get this right, of Title 5, Chapter 505. 505, that's Property Maintenance Code. So violation of the Property Maintenance Code is by definition in the ORC a minor misdemeanor. I believe it was intended for that. I can't speak to that because I wasn't here at the time, but there's nothing in the ORC that requires it to be a minor misdemeanor to be a violation of a township zoning resolution. Man. All right.
Sounds good. So do you need us to make a motion?
To direct, yes, that's correct.
All right, so you're gonna hold my hand through this one. I took a lot of notes. So need a motion to direct you to bring back some text amendments for us for the commercial vehicle parking in a residential area and the zoning violations and penalties.
You got it.
And then we would like you to come back to us with some more information regarding the vacation rental by owner and where that falls in line with our rental registration or any other guidelines that we have in place.
Perfect.
And is there anyone that would like to second that motion?
I'll second it.
Whoa, we have a second
Claiming
and
it.
a third.
We got fighters for you. Who's
And
claiming?
Bruce was first.
Okay. Mr. Gehring. All right. So if I may, with a motion and a second, I'll save you from saying it this time. Mr. Bachman?
Yes.
Mr. Gehring?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall? Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience with me tonight.
So next we have the announcement or administration, wherever you.
I think
threw
we're
it
clear
on
through that.
The agenda, about Mrs. Smith.
Oh, my gosh. It's been a long month. I apologize. I dropped. Our office received a letter of resignation from Mrs. Smith since the last meeting, since this meeting. Therefore, we will, I guess, technically accept that, present to you now, is presenting your packet. And then we would have a vacancy of a primary member. That would direct our administration to put before the Board of Trustees for them to appoint a alternate member to that vacant seat. And whoever they decided would be appointed there, and then we'd have an alternate as a vacancy as an alternate. As I understand it. So that's the typical process.
Okay, and then just for us, I just want to say to Mrs. Smith, if she watches this at some point, that the people of Colerain Township thank you for your almost 19 years, almost 20 years of dedicated service to our community. You've discussed countless parcels, text amendments, plans, and shaping our area and making many improvements. We wish you a healthy future and a happy retirement with Mr. Ed. So thank you again for your service to Colerain. And next meeting, yes. She's earned a day. Have
Definitely.
Mrs. Smith Day. So our next meeting is scheduled for May 16th, next month.
Currently have 3 applications.
Wow, that's going to be a nice
It's going to be
meeting.
a long meeting, isn't it?
Well, I like to
Bring
think,
your sleeping bags.
I feel like right up until the end here, we were moving through pretty quickly, but maybe I'm biased, but
Yeah.
I'll try and make it as quick and as painless as possible.
Sounds good. So commissioner, staff, applicants, and all in attendance, thank you for being here tonight. So I will do a straw poll. So all in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.